This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. It is a major challenge throughout our history, but it seems more so even in the last number of years, maybe post-COVID, and I'm referring to addiction. Numbers are up, people are struggling, families are struggling. Where do you get help, especially if you're in California? I want to introduce you to one of California's top-rated intensive outpatient addiction treatment programs, and it's in the foothills of San Gabriel Mountains in beautiful Pasadena, California. Going to learn about addiction, going to learn about this wonderful center called Dedicato, and the man behind it. Dedicato. I don't know where the L is coming from.
Yeah.
Knock the L out of me. He is Dr. Keith Marshall joining us on the program today. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good today. We're in a lot of meetings today, this morning, but it all comes with the administrative piece, comes with the working with people piece. But I'm feeling pretty blessed today.
I'm blessed to have you here. I'm hearing the numbers, even in my circle, hearing from friends of friends, et cetera, where addiction is up. The number of people that are addicted to mostly substances, but could be anything. Are you seeing that too within Dedicato?
Yeah, not only within Dedicato, but the community is large, and it's not an inner city or it's not an urban or rural area thing. It really is widespread. It seems like certain trends happen right now. The opioid phenomena, the opioid addiction has, with fentanyl and that type of use, has gone up. But I see everything from, alcohol use disorders, of course, cocaine use disorders. But right now we see what they call more speed and opiates. And those are not the clinical names, but opiate use disorder, amphetamine use disorders, which is speed and things like that, are up in the region where I'm at. I'm particularly, for example, I spoke in West Virginia, and their fentanyl and opiate addiction problem is way up. Alcohol use disorders are widespread. Because sometimes alcohol has a long, people can actually hide it for so long by binge drinking weekends and still be suffering. Sometimes the consequences doesn't lead and force them right into treatment right away. But there are addictions like amphetamine for speed or cocaine. The withdrawal tolerance increase is so severe. The tolerance increase is so dramatically, so fast that you see the consequences manifest a lot quicker, because the people who become addicted have the cravings, the phenomenon of craving gets really exacerbated.
So let's pick one substance and look at that. Everybody's different, but let's look at that journey. Let's say it's alcohol. Somebody goes out, socially drinks a little bit, likes the feeling, and now it's a little bit more. Now they're having a glass or two at night. Now it turns into a little bit more, and now they're finding themselves dependent on it. What typically is going on? As I understand it, somebody's not doing something unless there's pleasure derived from it, i.e. that turns into addiction. Can you I know we're going basic here, but just for understanding for all of us, can we talk about that?
To make it, all right, so to try to make it so it's really understandable, first of all, we have to understand that everybody who drinks isn't going to become addicted.
Sure.
One of the things that science and research has been able to prove, or at least identify, is that a lot of people who are addicted to substances, and when we talk about substances or chemicals, let's just term alcohol as a chemical, because it is.
Yep.
You have a natural reward pleasure system in your brain. A natural reward pleasure system in your brain. And what chemicals do when they come in is they induce their natural reaction of these chemicals. For example, when a person starts drinking, let's say there's a genetic predisposition. So what I mean by that is there could be 10 people in your family who are alcoholic, right? Or no, who there could be 10 people in your family who may have the gene. And let's say it manifests itself in one person. People just experiment, having a good time, and all of a sudden they find themselves over the course of a month or years that when they started using, they can't stop. And when they want to stop, they can't. And we call it the phenomena of craving. It's a phenomenon because science and research hasn't been able to understand that piece. So the brain starts to seek the mood swing for the man when it manifests in that person who may be genetically predisposed. That's why it's not a moral, some people say, man, he's just weak. He just and that is really it's very not actually appropriate. Most people who become alcoholic or become addicted to a substance didn't even know it was going to happen. And so the brain's reward pleasure system, which is the most dominant part, that's why they call it a disease, is the system that's activated. For dopamine is a reward pleasure transmitter that gives you feeling of elation and pleasure. Serotonin is a mood regulator in the body. So these neurotransmitters get affected. And for people who become addicted, especially dopamine, the dopamine rush in the brain, the body is truly, truly seeking that pleasure. Now, let's say this person has been genetically predisposed to become addicted. They never know what was going to happen. So one drink turns into two turns into three turns into six doesn't work. So they think they're getting higher and higher and more inebriated, but really they're continuously seeking the pleasure. Or they're seeking dopamine. They're seeking something that the brain can't give them anymore. So people don't actually grow up to become alcoholic or addicted. People actually, it is really real when people accidentally, through experimentation, through messing around, say, hey, I'm just going to go out and have a few drinks. And remember, about 6 to 7% of society is addicted to alcohol, according to a lot of the studies and research. And I did this, so I'm not just throwing these numbers out. So we got about 40 million Americans in this country. If you look statistically, there's a small portion of Americans that are simply addicted to alcohol. Wow. So there's an infrastructure designed around that treatment. And then so you would say, well, how does someone overcome? People who are addicted to alcohol are not responsible for becoming addicted. They're responsible for the recovery. And that could be the challenge, because in recovery, that means there's uncomfortability, because the brain itself, while they're drinking, has learned how to not only seek the mood swing, mitigate stressors in life. They gave them false senses of security. Like somebody goes in, I need a couple of drinks in order to socialize. What they're really saying is that I'm not comfortable in my own skin and may want to loosen up. And it's not to say that everybody who has to get a couple of drinks to loosen up has a whole lot of low self-esteem working. But I got to keep it real with you. If you can't just simply walk in a room, engage and get into a conversation and just be okay with it, there is some form of self that doesn't feel comfortable enough with self to just have the natural conversation. But if I tell myself I need a few drinks, it kind of loosens me up, and it does. What it does is it reduces inhibition. But for the person who becomes addicted, that's dangerous, and especially because they don't know what's going to happen. And they find that every time they go out, they need that few drinks to engage. But then they find themselves at some point that engagement's not going to even happen anymore, because the longer you do alcohol when you're addicted to it, the less social engagement you're going to have. And people don't even want to be around you. And so it's a manifestation of the disease that takes place for the person who's alcoholic. I don't know if that helps, but just remember, most people who become addicted are genetically predisposed to becoming addicted, meaning they didn't even know it. And then when they do become addicted, a lot of times they're already in it so deep that now it takes recovery efforts, and that means treatment, interventions, and also people to help them to learn how to retrain themselves, if you will, make a new paradigm shift and learning how to cope with life on life's terms. But they have to grasp that concept first. If a person is alcoholic and simply can't make that admission for self and grasp the concept that the disease is very real, that there's some real neurobiological changes going on in the brain, chemical changes going on in the brain, and don't truly grasp that, the consequences may keep them continue staying in denial and continue to drink until the consequences become severe enough to actually want to look at self.
Would you say that if somebody has identified, I got a problem here, I know I'm drinking too much, but the bottle gets cracked at night and they finish it off and now on to the next day, would you say if you've made the admission that you're substantially ahead of other situations, you're in a much better place being able to say that I have a problem?
If somebody actually says that they have a problem, and there's somebody around them that understands the importance. First of all, it's a very courageous act. People don't even realize the courage that it takes to make a self-admission. It's courageous because you got to remember the shame associated with an alcoholic or someone who's doing it enough that it's disrupting biopsychosocial functionings in their life. So if someone says, hey, man, I really got a problem, but they go drink again. So denial is still working. Denial keeps the person doing, although they can reason and say that, hey, I know I'm an alcoholic. I think I have a problem. They continue to use. That's when interventions become very important. Mm-hmm. So if a family member, here's a family, like say a dad is, kind of cool with the son, and the son's 23, 25, says, Pop, I think I'm really, I think this beer is really starting to really get to me. And Dad said, well, what do you mean, man? So I sometimes I just can't stop drinking on a weekend or whatever. If the dad is smart, he starts seeking now, if he doesn't understand it, ways that, hey, someone, maybe we can see if we can get you to talk to somebody in treatment, maybe get to talk to somebody to explore this a little bit deeper. Family members should take it very, very, very serious when someone makes that admission. Number one, that they think they have a problem, and take it seriously at that admission point. Don't wait later.
Gotcha.
Because the sooner that someone identifies as needing the help, there's a possibility that the breakthrough to recovery may be a little bit more efficacious because the intrinsic motivation is there. They want it. And that's why they're admitting it, but yet they continue to use it. It's almost like they're reaching out for help.
Yes.
So,
yeah, they open the door, they put their hand out, grab their hand. when they do, don't
when
wait.
They do that. Once that hand is out, grab it. If you don't know what to do, you don't need to know what to do. There's enough resources and services in the world, not only Dedicato Treatment Center, but resources and services that can say, hey, my son admitted to me that he thinks he's having a problem. If he says he thinks, trust me on this one.
Yeah.
If anyone says that they think they're having it, they may be dumbing it down, or what they call minimizing its impact to you. But for them, it's great.
Yep.
Otherwise, they would never get to that admission because they want to continue to do it.
So we're focusing on alcohol to start here today. What are some of the treatment routes? And I've heard, too, that it needs to be replaced. So I'm not the professional, but this is what I heard, that it's that addiction is replaced by something else. Nowadays, CBD, THC, easier to get, dispensaries everywhere. Is it reasonable to replace it with something like that, or is that just a bad thing as well?
Well, there's a few ways of thinking, but I'm going to say this. For me, no. If a person is alcoholic and he's just, say, using marijuana, right? Mm-hmm. CBT, or what they call there's some things that don't have any psychoactive realities.
Yep.
If it's not psychoactive, it's not going to produce, it's not going to force neurotransmitters to get used beyond their intended purposes. I stick to very grassroots stuff, meaning that if I'm having a problem dealing with self, I got to remember alcohol is just really a symptom. No matter what, once I become alcoholic, it just started mitigating things for me that I never really knew of. The ideal is to, first of all, develop the ability to place yourself where if it's alcohol, we need to assess where are you at in that alcoholic stage, because a person may need detox at first, because alcohol is dangerous to withdraw from if a person has a chronic alcohol problem. So the first thing is to seek medical attention to rule out any acute withdrawal symptoms that may cause danger and harm. If the person isn't in that much danger and harm, and we know that, the second step would be the levels of care. And that would be, for example, let's say someone wasn't in a chronic alcoholic state, but they're in the beginning stages of alcoholism and they know it. Maybe an intensive outpatient center could help. And why could that help? One, now we start dealing with the real issues. We start, first of all, doing a biopsychosocial. That means truly assessing this person's history of life. Find out where some of the disruptions of the thinking started. Why is that important? Because at least some of the things that are driving me throughout life and then also disrupting some of my relational value may also be the perceptions I have about self. So then connecting them to social support systems in the community that may give people a chance to actually discuss and talk about issues that are really bothering. That's why people have NA and 12-step meetings. But there's other things. Some people can get involved in some spiritual groups, the churches, or other areas of life where they believe that they have supportive people around them who are not using, not putting things around them to trigger it, because the 12-step process is big, AA is big, but it's not the only way people can recover. I am an advocate for it, though, not as a voice for them. I'm saying it is really a strong factor in the community. But there are other ways there's other way people can actually connect with groups, support functions, where people can get involved in their spiritual functions to learn how to cope with life, have someone to talk to, and be very authentic about it. Because authentic expression is important to start to mitigate issues on internal, so that my brain isn't seeking the mood swing all the time for alcohol. It's like people learn how to cope drinking, meaning that drinking has took over, and their brain learned to cope in another way. You have to learn to be uncomfortable first in order to become comfortable again, which is dealing with life on life's terms.
And you know what? Now that you say that, Dr. Marshall, these people may never have felt comfortable in the beginning. And I scan my mind over a large period of time, and people I know that have had, we're centering on alcohol today, alcohol challenges. Many of them have had challenges for quite some time on different meds, antidepressants, which now add alcohol. And now you got, even bigger challenges. Or someone that I know, it was definitely in their family. As you think back, mom and dad, a sibling, and now them. And it was potentially a personal situation that maybe triggered it or kicked it in. And now that's what they rely on. Your passion for helping people is amazing, like over the top in a beautiful way. Can you tell us your journey, how you got here?
Well, first of all, I recovered from addiction myself, so we could start there. But more importantly, what I had learned about my life growing up, I was sexually abused as a child, physically abused as a child. And then I had a lot of promiscuous behavior in my lifestyle. I attached too many things internally to needing validation, seeking validation. And this all came through the exploration process after consequences of addiction forced me to want to look inside. I've forgiven everybody in my life. It's a major factor of transformation is to look at what happened, introspect. At retrospect, what did I learn from what happened, whether it was good or bad? What did it help me? What did I see in my life that was disruptive in my thinking that continued me in behaviors that get me in trouble? And then what did I do to correct it? And so my consequences of being homeless, being shot in the head, point blank range, being stabbed 17 times, being beat down with baseball bats as a part of that drug culture. Not that I was involved in those activities like I was some type of initiator of it, but being a victim in that environment when you owe money or you're in an environment where somebody wants to rob.
It sounds like you got swept in. You got swept in.
Oh, listen, I went into a nightclub in 1980 called Serendipities in Philadelphia. I was a high school athlete, very popular in football and track and field. As a matter of fact, football is in my family. My cousin played my nephew played semi-pro. I have a cousin now, Bryce Young, who's a starting quarterback for the Panthers. His father's a mental health professional. I bought his father out here to California when I grew up in Philadelphia. His father, my mother's brother, had me bring him and his mother out. So football, I was popular in high school. Here's where I'm going with this. Those psychosocial stages in high school is role identity versus role confusion. The more trust an individual has in himself and the more he feels okay about being who he really is, the less need for validation and attention. Because I was good in sports, I had a lot of attention. So those internal struggles I was dealing with, feeling lonely and inadequate, didn't emerge. I broke 3 bones in my senior year. I was an all-star, broke 3 bones in my senior year. Any chances of a scholarship back in the 80s, it was gone. So I get on the campus of Temple University now. Instead of feeling like this popular guy in school, I'm recognized I'm in a city within a city, and I'm not known by anybody. And so now all of a sudden that internal stuff comes up, needing validation, the desire to do all those things that we didn't ask to happen.
Superman's
the way
cape.
I internalized the world.
Superman's cape was taken away.
It was taken away.
Yeah.
And so my fears started to become profound. And I remember going into a nightclub, shouldn't have been in, but, you know, I was a teenage, 19 years old, you know, doing what a lot of us do, go to parties. And I went in the bathroom and I decided to try a little bit of cocaine. And my perception was it was just a rich man's high. So it was like kind of, I'd try some of that. And so I'm all in, and I did. And I walked out the bathroom and I felt like Superman. Now think about it. I wasn't trying to be a dope fiend or get hooked on it. I wanted to, listen, can I keep it real?
Go.
I just wanted to get with the girls. And I wanted to,
you know, it was a boost of courage and for fun at that time doing the line, but
that was it. When I snorted it, I walked out, and I'm not endorsing it to anybody. Don't ever try that, because instead you don't never know where it's going to take you. It took me to hell. So I went in the bathroom, I took a few hits of cocaine, and I walked out, and I thought I was Superman. Started dancing around, and all that, the feelings of inadequacy and low self-worth, it wasn't relevant. I just felt cocky. And so my brain immediately, I guess, it set off a genetic expression. My dopamine and then glutamate, which is a neurotransmitter that encodes and records those memorable experiences, said, hey, man, I told my friend next week, look, man, when I go to class, man, let's go to the dip. Serendipity, let's go to the dip, man, and let's get another 50 and get some, because I'm thinking of having fun.
Yep.
But what I thought was fun, innocently, just trying to have a good time, right? What I saw on TV, I thought that people do that and have fun and don't have the issue. That's not true. They show the glamour piece of it. Snorting coke, they're at a party, they're having sex, they're having fun. And this is a young 19-year-old, you know, from well, at this point we were out of the ghetto, but because my mother had gotten her nursing degree, but I still had a framework that would see what I seen, which wasn't, you know, prosperity. And so I wanted to try it. And unbeknownst to myself, I'm partying around, having a good time. I tell my friend. And so each week we go out, we do it. And then I find out that each week now, so, well, if it works on Friday, my brain said, well, maybe it'll work when I go to work at night. And so I'm walking around the hospital that I'm working in at this time. I'm a housekeeping manager. People used to say, man, your moods bounce up and down. You come in and you're all excited and pumping everybody up. By the end of the night, you're all like a madman. It's because I don't have any more. So withdrawal intolerance set in, and before you know it, I find myself becoming homeless. I find myself sleeping behind dumpsters or hiding behind dumpsters because I sold my shoes for a hit of crack. So it progressed. I grew up, mom's a nurse, dad's a firefighter, my brother's a firefighter. I have a brother that's a U.S. Marshal. I was in school. I had dreams of also doing, but so you see, it had nothing to do with that. It was me trying something innocently. And I want to say this for any audience that may be listening, just experimenting, not to scare you, but if you don't know, you don't know. But just the experimentation alone could have some dramatic effects in your life, especially when you're messing with those serious Schedule II drugs like cocaine, methamphetamines, opiates. I'm not saying that marijuana, there are a lot of people smoking marijuana, and there's a lot of, you know, pros and cons about it. Me being a provider and a practitioner that wants people to just learn how to live life on life's term, I'm not even going to endorse marijuana, but I'm going to stay in the middle because there are medicinal effects that it has had on people that science has proven to really work. So I'll stay in the middle there. But anybody who is having an addiction with anything that's chronic, I would tell them even marijuana use isn't your issue today. You need to look at abstinence and learning how to take care of self. And the only way to do that is to have someone to help you actually take a look at what that really means.
Wow. We're out of time. We could keep going. And I believe, Dr. Marshall, we could even do a podcast alone on gratitude and why it's a game changer and why life in general, but especially, you know, in an addiction situation, why it's impactful. You've got award-winning books out. You help people in the mountains of beautiful Pasadena, California. How do we find you? How do we connect?
Well, it's easy, www.dedicatedtreatment.com. So the word dedicatedtreatment.com. So www.dedicatedtreatment.com. All my information is on that website, books, everything. And then if people need to make the connections, make the connections. I know people in other states and stuff like too. I've helped firefighters, police officers, first responders you'd be surprised how many people have issues, man, are related to substances and chemicals, and it has nothing to do with their professions or personalities.
And we would be surprised to know that how many are able to hide it. You have no idea what they're, they're walking around drunk, but you never know. You'd never know.
Right.
Thank you so much for today. Thank you for being masked down and keeping it real and being personal. We learn from stories. I learned a lot from you already, even how I can help others that I feel are on the verge of something going on there.
Yes.
Dedicato, your dedication speaks volumes. Thanks for being here, and looking forward next time we get together.
Appreciate you. See you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.